All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, I
Yeah,
can hear you.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So, let's just jump right into it. Um, has everyone submitted their assessments for last week? Because, yeah, I was also checking through, and I think only a few people did. Some had their folders set up, but the assignment for last week, the assessment for last week, was not available there. So I don't know. If you have the assignment done, but you've not uploaded it, please, I think you can still upload before the class starts so that I can, check through by tonight and we'll see how we move on from there. Okay. All right. So that is that. Let's jump right back to where we stopped in the last class. We started off with um programming in C sharp,
mhm.
introduction to programming in C sharp. I hope you can hear me though.
Yeah, we can.
All right. So we started off
I love
with
your screen.
what?
Sorry, go on. I was just saying I love your screen. So
Oh, thanks.
I thought I was muted.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much. And okay, we started off with introduction to C sharp programming using VS Code. I just to recap, I took us through variables. We learned about the different variable types that C sharp uses with the keywords, strings, ints, floats, doubles, booleans, and then we look through a couple of operations, the basic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, remainder, or modulo. And then we saw how to, print out results using the console. That's the console.writeLine. We also went through comparison operators, the equals to is not equals to is less than, is greater than, is less than or equals to, is greater than or equals to, and then we played around with that, and then got a couple of results. We also checked through conditional statements, okay, with the ifs, else ifs, and else statements, so in order to compare compare variables, compare values, compare data, and then get a result or be able to execute a function or a method using those conditions if the conditions are met or not. Okay, and then using all of what we learned, we put together a really simple player verification system where we checked through a player's name and a player's pin, and then compared it with a list of data that we had, uh, and then printed out a response depending on the conditions that were met or not met. Okay, so yeah, and then we kind of did a simple. It took us through a simple introduction to arrays, which we should start with actually today. But before we do that, I want us to quickly look at another type of statement that I skipped. Immediately after conditional statement, there's another statement type that we should just quickly look at. Mhm. So I'm going to comment all of these out. If we don't remember, commenting is double slash, or if you want to do like multiple, select all of them and then control forward slash. It's on comments, or if you do that, it comments everything out. So um, let's look at switch statements. Okay, let's look at switch statements for a minute here. So, what is switch statement? A switch statement is It's more like a conditional check that provides a way to perform actions based on values on a single expression or a variable. So if you have like constant expressions, like maybe you have five constant expressions that you want to check through to confirm if your variable is equals to either of those constant values, constant expressions, you can use a switch statement rather than a conditional statement. That's if, else, and else if. Okay, so this is how a switch statement is structured, or the syntax of a switch statement. So let's just start with an integer. Let's say we want to compare an integer, for example. Okay, so we have let's use, what constants can we use to try this out? Okay, let's use days of the week. Okay, so we have 7 days of the week, and then we can say day number. Okay, so day number, let's make the day number one for now. All right, number one, and then string, and then the name of the day. All right, so day one would mean Monday, depending on how you count your days, but let's use Monday, as day one. Okay, day one will be Monday, day two Tuesday, day three Wednesday, day four Friday, Thursday, day five Friday, day six Saturday, day seven Sunday. Okay, and then if the person puts day 9 or 10 or whatever, it will not return any day, or would give back the day number is not valid, or the days do not go up to this number or something. But let me just show you how a switch statement is structured. So switch, okay, switch, and then the expression that we're trying to check, or the value we're trying to check. And in this case, we're trying to check the day number. Okay, so what day number did our user or client, or player impute? So we pass in that day number into our switch statement, and then using switch statements, instead of going through else ifs, we use cases. So the case if the first case equals to a value, then do this. If the second case equals to a value, then do this. Okay, so as simple as that, you just type case and then the expected constant value. All right, so we are going from 1 all the way to 7. All right, so the first case would be if the day number is 1. All right, so if the day number is 1, we do a colon, okay, to check, and then day name. So what do we want to do if the day number is equals to 1? So we make the day name equals to Monday. All right, and then you do this and break. Okay, breaking means immediately this is done, immediately this case is checked, break it off there. All right, so if this case is met, all right, if the expression of this case has been met, you break it off and don't check through the other cases. All right, so let's do for the next one. Case, let's say we get the value of 2. All right, and then okay, day name would be, the second day is Tuesday, so that will be Tuesday, and then break if that condition has been met. Then the third is 3. Okay, it's colon, not semicolon in that case, and then the day name would equal Wednesday. All right, and then break, and then case 4, that's colon, day name, okay, would equal Thursday. So we just check through all the different cases, okay, for the constants. So this can only be done when you have a set of constants that you'd want to, in which our case, there are only 7 days of the week, except probably you're working on a fantasy game or something, fantasy project that for some reason in your world has maybe 10 days or something. Or at least it still has to be a constant value. Okay, so before this works properly, or for you to be able to want to use this. So day 6 is Saturday. Did I spell Saturday right? Okay, and then break day. Okay, so case 7, which is our last day. Day name equals Sunday, and then break also. So now this final part, if none of the cases have been met, if you've gone through all of those cases and then you found out that none of these cases have been, met, none of the expressions match the cases, you just do a default case. Okay, just in just in case, I guess, just do a default case and the result would be something like um, unknown day. Or okay, let me just put in brackets day day does not match available data, just to sound fancy or something, something like that. And then yeah, for this also you break. Okay, now this is okay, sorry, I did not set a value for this. Let's say the default day is Monday. Let's just make it empty like that. Okay, right. So that is that. And then okay, we've set that value. So immediately after we've done this, we want to print something out as a result. Okay, so in order to print, we use our console.writeLine, and then we write out the value. Okay, so we can say um, today. Okay, so today is, and then add. Okay, so add the day name. Yeah, and then close this off. I'm trying to see this because we use the day name here too. Um, okay, let's see how we can make this work. Okay. Okay, so unknown day. Okay, let's just say um day imputed is unknown. Okay, let's just say is unknown. So I'm just trying to make this make sense. Day does not match any. So you can say day imputed is Monday, day imputed is Tuesday, and so on and so forth. And then when you get here, it goes day imputed is unknown, day does not match available data. Okay, I guess that makes sense. So I'm just trying to make sense of every single thing. All right, so when you've done this, you can just like quickly run that and see the results we get. So with the day number we gave is 1. So our results would be day imputed is Monday as expected. So day imputed is Monday. Okay, so that is how you use a switch statement. Okay, just for practice before we go into everything, can we get, okay, let's come up with a um oh sorry about that, Emmanuel. You can just follow up and the class would be posted on YouTube. So whenever your PC is on, you can, go through everything again. But, just for understanding for now, you can just like still follow up with the class and everything. Okay, so quickly, um, let's come up with a let's come up with a switch case, okay, where we have constant data, all right, that we can go through, so that I would kind of gauge how much we understand the concepts that we're talking about here. So, someone come up with something that is constant, that has like a constant value. May like we used 7 days. Okay, let's come up with something that is constant. Anybody? Can we hear me?
Yes, yes, I can
Number
hear
of
you.
weeks in a year or number of weeks in a month.
Number of
Weeks in a year or weeks in a month.
okay, since we're using calendar, number of weeks in a how do you give out data for number of weeks in a month? Do you say week one, week two, week three? In this case, we were able to use
Why didn't we just go with the months of the year?
months of
That's
the year.
January.
Okay, so something like months of the year would work. All right. So something like that is what would make sense since we're going for that. So because it's kind of difficult to get your head around how you do weeks of a month, because you only have like 4 or 5 weeks in a month depending on how many days are in the month. So there is no like an actual constant. But for year, like Idris mentioned, you have 12 months in a year, which is a constant. Okay, so we can always do that appropriately. Okay, 54 weeks. Well, they're actually 52, and then depending on the year, if the year is a leap year, it can go to maybe less or more, which is a, but it's 52, and then it can be 52 plus, you know. So depending on that, but we're talking about weeks in a month now, not weeks in a year. So let's just quickly go through what Idris suggested. All right, so let's create a new. Okay, so now we can use month ID. Okay, let me just bring this up here. So we can use month ID, and this time let's say month 7. All right, and then string month. Let me use Camel Casey. Or name of month. Name of month. What am I typing? Name of month. Okay, so let's just make this an empty. And yeah, our infamous switch statement. Okay, so we can just do month ID. Okay, it gives us a default. So we're going to have 12 cases and one default case in this particular one. All right, so if we go through the first month, that's month 1, we will have the name of the month to be the first month of the year, which is January. Okay, so that's case 1, and then break. Okay, case 2, we have name of month. So okay, just to make this a bit faster, I'm going to do a bit of copy and paste, and then just change up values. All right, so we're going to, since we have to, let's just duplicate this about 4 times. 1, 2, right. No, okay, that's all right. I guess everything makes sense. So this is 3, this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I have a few. That's 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so 9, okay, 10, 11, and 12. All right. So we have 12. And then, so January, February, this is March, this is April, May, June, July, which is next month, August, September, October, November, and the most interesting month of the year, December. All right, so the default case would just have, usually, our so unknown, okay, as we did before, unknown. Okay, so unknown case, and then just break out of the entire thing. Let's just leave it as unknown. Okay, so yeah, there we go. And then we will print out using our console. So console dot write line, and then we can just start that with the month received. Let's use received is, and just add the name of month there. Okay, so we have the one for the day, okay, and then another one for the month. Okay, so let's just run that and get the results. Okay, so yeah, let's just run that, and immediately after this we're going to jump straight into arrays. Okay, so there we go. The first result gave day imputed. Let me make sure we see this. Day imputed is Monday, the month received is July. Okay, so these are those results. So if we put a number that is not supposed to be there, like 39, and then for this day we put like 0, just to test that works, and get us familiar with the structure of switch statements. Okay, see, the results are as expected. Day imputed is unknown, day does not match available data, and then the month received is unknown. Okay, so that is how, let me just close this off. So that's how you work with switch statements. Okay, so a very close relative to using switch statements be using enums, but I'm not going to talk about enums now, okay, because enums have a much more complicated use case. I want to say complicated now, but enums are, they are structured differently, and it would be a whole lot easier if I had like a very good use case for enums that other than this. Okay, so probably when we start working in Unity and then we are trying to set variable types or constant values that won't change all throughout the projects, then we can start using enums. Okay, but in switch statements, probably you just want to go through a set of constants. Like right now, you can just quickly use a switch statement. But the reason why enums are used over switch statements in some projects is because you don't want to have to be going through this long way, like this long method you grab. What if your switch statement is like maybe, as we mentioned, 52 weeks? Probably every week of the year had a name. Are you going to like go through from 1 all the way to 52? It won't make any sense. You grab. So enums come in handy when it comes to such elaborate and complex cases. So yeah, let's jump to arrays. We've looked at switch statements. Let's go into arrays. Okay, quickly. Okay, I think I can only just comment out the, let's get rid of the entire comment, and I just comment out a few things here. Okay, I think this is where it stops. If I have any red lines, yeah, there we go. I'll just comment out the red lines. Sorry, just want to make sure that everything looks proper. Okay, let's just go on anyways. So let's look at arrays. ARRAYS, arrays. Okay, so what are arrays? Okay, so arrays are basically, how do I explain arrays? Arrays are basically data structures. Yeah, so data structures that allow you to have multiple values stored in, like, multiple values of the same data type, okay, stored in a sequential manner. Yeah, so arrays are data structures that allow you to save multiple values of the same data type in a sequential manner. What does this mean? So um let's say I have 5 students, all right, and I want to save all of their data. I don't want to have to go through this string and say student one, let's say Idris, and then do it again, student, like student 2, and just have something like Emmanuel. Yeah, and then having to go through this over and over and do that for student 3, and then say Deola, and you keep having to do that all over again until you cover up all the students you have, and then that takes a while. To go through. Okay, so instead of doing that, you can just have, instead of going through this hassle, yeah, you can have a single data type, a single structure, okay, that would contain all of these data types, all of these values. Okay, so instead of having student 1, student 2, student 3, student 4, blah 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 blah, all the way to whatever the maximum number of students you have are, you can just do this. Have one of them, and then in C#, if you want to declare or specify an array, you just use your square brackets. Okay, someone has a question. Let's see. Oh shoot. Okay, I have to make sure that I get back. What's going on? Sorry about that. Can we all hear me? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right. The internet went off for a minute there. Okay, so yeah. I was explaining how to declare an array. So you type out the someone saying something. Okay. So you type out the variable type you want your array to be contained. Okay, so if you want an array of strings, you type in string. Okay, and then to specify that, okay, this is an array of strings, you use your square brackets. Okay, like so, and then the name of the array. So we're talking about students, so students. All right, so we want to create an array of students. Okay, so look at an array like a sequential arrangement of data, like a list of data. Although in C# there's another data structure called list, which we would eventually get to. But for now, let's look at arrays. Okay, so we declare this. This is an array of students. Okay, what we can do, if you want to define the contents of that array, okay, we can simply do this. Okay, we can use the curly braces. Okay, curly braces, and then just put a list of all of the data you want. So we're using strings in this case. So strings always have quotes on them, quotation marks on them. So let's use students. So student's name can be John, comma. So John is the first student. The second student can be Tayo. The third student can be, okay, I'm supposed to write Tofumi there. All right, and then we keep going. I think let's have about 5. Okay, Tofumi, let's say Ayo, and then that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then our final students can be let's just use Yetunde, I guess. Okay, so this is, let's just make sure everything is okay here. Okay, yeah, it's okay. All right, so this is our array of students. Okay, so we have 5 students, and then we just declared them. Okay, so we just declared the students. So instead of having to go through that rough that really stressful method of listing out student 1 equals to blah blah blah, and string again, declare another one, student 2 equals to blah 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 blah, so having to go through all of that over and over again, you can just declare it once and then have all of the values specified in there like this. Easy peasy, one line of code and you're done. Okay, if it's a whole lot more, probably you want to do something like let's say an integer. Okay, and then the integer can be this would be funny, bank account details. Okay, so you want an array of bank account details. Okay, so let's say you wanted to do like 100 or so. Okay, you won't just like have 100 of these going all the way in a straight line. Okay, so a very good way to write that is to do this. Okay, if you can see what I did here. So let me do that again so that I'm better understood. So you do your normal curly braces and hit enter, and then close it off with a semicolon. Okay, then in between your first curly braces and the second curly brace, Okay, just impute your data. So let's say the first account number is 779852587, something like that, and then just have multiple, okay, like that, and then you can keep going as crazy as you want to. Right now I'm just hitting random numbers just to get this along, but with this you can just keep going and imputing as many as you want instead of going through the hassle as mentioned. And then that way you have, don't mind all of this is nonsense, but you get what I'm trying to explain. And then the final one can be left like that. So yeah, that is what we have for arrays. There is also another way to structure your array. Okay, there are other ways to arrange your array or to declare an array. Okay, so I'm going to do that now. So let's say you want your array to have a specific number. Okay, you don't want it to be open to a random you don't want it to be able to infinite amount of data, because then it would not be too easy to control when you're looking at it from the practical sense of things. All right, so the best thing you can do is to specify a number of a number of an amount of data, yes, an amount of data that you want to take in for that particular array. Okay, in the case of students, let's rewrite the students, but we want only 5 students. Okay, so this time we want only 5 students. Okay, let's close this off and then bring this down here. So we want only 5 students. So how do we go about restricting our array to just 5 students? Okay, so we can do this. Okay, so this is, we can just say new, okay, string, and then hit your square brackets again, and then the number of data you need. Okay, the amount of data you need. So in this case, we need just 5 students. Okay, we need just 5 students. I think I should do this so that we can see my screen clearly. I should have done this earlier. Okay, so yeah, we need just 5 students. Okay, so we need just 5 students, and now we've told the array that okay, we only need 5 students, so the size of our array is 5. If we want it to be more, we can just change that to 50, and no matter what happens, the only amount of students this array would be able to take would be 50. Okay, if you try to look for or add to it, it won't do anything. Okay, or it's just slap you with an error, like index of array, maybe to give you like index of array exception or something. All right, so but this way you have a much more controlled size that you can keep track of. So if you need 50 students, just put it, just set it to 50, and then you would be working with just 50 students. Okay, so but now we have let's go back to 5. So we have 5, but we don't have any students in there yet. So all we have done here is tell the array that okay, we have a size of 5, meaning we have a slots open for 5 students, but none of those slots are occupied at the moment. You grab, all the slots are empty. So how do you fill up those slots? You can easily fill up those slots by taking what we already have here and just moving it to the back of this. So instead of just having them just like that, we can just have it there and close it off. Okay, so you created an array, you specified the amount or the size of the array, and now you filled up the slots for the array. No, now see this. Okay, what's up? Oh, time. Wow, the way time flies. All right, so we have that. So that is how you structure an array. Okay, so let's see something. So now I said you can't add to it when you have already created when you've already specified the size. So if I try to include one more, like let me see, let's say Derek, you can see it's already underlining this as an error, like something is not right. Okay, like you literally just told me you needed 5 students, so why in the world are you adding a 6th student? That's what this error is. So an array initializer of length 5 is expected. Okay, we already specified that the length or the size of our array is 5, so we can't add a 6th person. Okay, then C# just goes crazy, like you just said it was 5, so what is the 6th person doing here? All right, so that is that. Okay, when you've specified the length or the size of an array, you stick to that size. By the time you start adding to it, you break the entire data structure. Okay, so that is how you declare an array. Now let's figure out how to access an array. Okay, let's figure out how to access elements in the array. So like I explained, these arrays, come on, stop that. These arrays have slots. Okay, so each slot currently has been filled with these names: John, Tayo, Tufemi, Ayo, and Yetunde. So each of those slots, every slot has been assigned a value of strings, because we created an array of strings. Now let's say you want to go through your array and then pick out the 3rd person in your array. Okay, let's say you just need one of the students. For example, you need Tayo. Okay, you don't want to have to go through John. Okay, let's say you need Yetunde in this case. Let's use Yetunde as an example. You don't want to have to go through John, have to go through Tayo, Tofumi, Ayo before coming all the way to Yetunde. That's so much work. So C# has a way, or most programming languages have a way for you to access an element. So an element is like the value or the data contained within a slot in the array. Okay, so you can access elements in the array using what you call indexes. So each of these values, each of these strings have an index within this array. Okay, so arrays in programming use what you call a uses zero-based indexing, meaning the first slot or the first value in an array is assigned the index of 0. So instead of counting 1, 2, 3,
Except
4,
for R.
what?
I said except for R programming. R program does not follow every other one.
Oh yeah, true. Actually, yes. Thank you for noting that. Yeah, I don't program in R actually, so I was not fully aware about that. So cool. Yeah, so R does not do that. R uses the normal convention, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I guess let me use the word, most programming languages use zero-based indexing, to go through lists, arrays, dictionaries, and so on and so forth. Okay, so if you want to get a value, or if you want to get one of these elements within your array, you can it starts with 0. So let's say if you want to get the first element, John in this case will have an index of 0. Tayo will have an index of 1, even though Tayo is the second student. Okay, so I can just say the index is the for let me say for memory purpose, the index is the position minus 1. Okay, so the index is the position minus 1. So John is the first person, but his index is 0. So that is his position minus 1. Tayo is the second student, but Tayo's index is 1. Second minus 1. So 2 minus 1 is 1. Alright. Tofumi is the third, but she'll be her index would be 2, and so on and so forth. So if you have 60 students, the very last student will have an index of 59. So it will count all the way from 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, yada yada yada, all the way to 59 instead of 60. So do you understand how that works? All right. So that is how. Okay, I've not even gotten us to how it's called. So if I want to access, I hate this. If I want to access Tayo, yeah, I wanted to access Tayo. I can just say students. So you use the array name, which is in our case students, and then square brackets, and then you use the index of that student. And we're looking for Tayo. What's Tayo's index? Can someone answer? Tayo's index, given what I just said.
Tayo's index is 1.
Awesome, yeah. Tayo's index is 1. What about Yetunde?
Yetunde is 4.
Yetunde is 4. Awesome. Okay, so that is how you declare, that is how you access a particular element in an array. You use their index. So we need Tayo. Okay, so Tayo is second position, but his index is 1. So this is Tayo. Okay, so this is Tayo. If we want to access Tayo, okay, let's just print out the name here. So let's say console. Okay, the right line, and then yeah, so students, and then the index of our students is 1. Tayo is 1. Okay, so let's just put this. So to access an element, use array name and then index. Okay, so that is how you access name. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's rounding up on that very soon. So let's just do so for all of the students, and then I'm going to do something that I'm not supposed to do very soon. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you notice anything, don't say anything, just keep it to yourself for now. I just want us to see something, and then we will continue. So let's get the results of this and see what happens. So we're checking for students 0 to 5. Oh yeah, I need to get this out. Okay, so yeah, let's start from here. Okay, so the first student is John, second student is Tayo, Tofumi, Ayo, Yetunde, and then when it got to the 5th student, unhandled exception, system.index out of range exception. Index was outside the bounds of the array. Okay, so I did that purposely for us to see that if we try to access a student that is not even within the array, it will give us this error. Okay, system.index out of range. This index 5 is not contained within this array. Okay, I guess we can start. We have to join a new class. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we're supposed to join a new meeting. So let me do that now. Okay. Okay, I have to go through this a long way. All right, so M E E. Okay, hopefully this works. Okay, MEESIME. Bam. Okay. All right, we're back in here. Let's wait a minute for the others to join in. Okay. Okay. All right. So that we don't waste so much time, everyone else can catch up when they can. So yeah, that is how arrays work. Okay. So next thing we are going to look at about arrays before we move on to something else. You can change the values. Yeah, you can change the values of array. You can modify elements within an array. So just because we have John, Tayo, Tofumi, Ayo, and Yetunde as the students here, it doesn't mean these can't change. Okay, probably in your school or your class, for some reason, Tofumi left the school. Okay, I don't know, but let's say she left. All right, you can change the position or you can change the value of the third student, which has the index of 2. You can change this value. Okay, and you can change that using this. So students, so we want to change the second student. So we want to change the third student, which is Tofumi. So Tofumi's index is 2.
Two.
Okay. So yeah, thank you.
Plus
Yeah, so equals to who is probably you have a new student. So a new student just came in and you want to add the new student in Tofumi's place since Tofumi has left. Okay, so you can change this to let's say Edwin. So Edwina. Yeah, let's use Edwina there. Okay, so now our second student, or sorry, our third student is now Edwina. Okay, since Tofumi has left. So if we print, let me make sure that nothing else prints out for now. I think I made a mistake on. So let's just cover that up. Cover this up. So just cover everything up for now. Okay, I think this is everything. All right, so let's just concentrate on these. Awesome. So we're done with switch statements. Okay, so yeah, let's concentrate on arrays. Okay, awesome. So yeah, we've changed Edwina. All right. So now, okay, so now we can run this again. So you know the first time we got Tofumi. So now let's see what this gives us. So yeah, as you can see, Tofumi is no longer in our list of students, okay, in our array of students. We have John, who still retains first position, Tayo, Edwina, Ayo, and Yetunde. So these are the new list of students. This is the new list of students, okay? So in between here and here, you've changed or you've modified the elements within the students array, okay? So now let's do something interesting. Okay, let's do something interesting here. Okay, we want to iterate through an array. Okay, so iterate through an array means like you can go through every component of the array, check through every component of the array. Okay, check through every component of the array. Probably let's look at it in this case now. Students, remember in secondary school, primary school, secondary school, your teacher would have a list of all the students and their names, and then the teacher would take attendance. Yes, that's what it's called. Take attendance of every student. And what the teacher would do is call out the student's name, and then the student would verify whether or not he's present. Okay, so let's try to replicate that using an iteration through our array of students. Mind you, I'm using this to explain how arrays work. It might not always behave this way, or it won't only be strings. Okay, you can iterate through an array of integers, an array of classes, an array of booleans. Okay, so iterating through will just maybe give you an idea of what each of those elements are. Okay, what's going on with each of those elements. Let's check through all the elements and see what's up. Okay, so I'm going to do two things with this. So let's iterate through an array. So this iteration will now introduce us to loops. Okay, so now we are currently looking at loops. We're still under arrays, but we through the introduction of iteration, we'll have to use loops. Okay, so in using loops, we have two types of loops. We have the for loop, and okay, yeah, we actually have three, but two really common ones. Okay, we have the while loop, and then we also have the do while. I barely use do while. but I'm just going to show us how dual works. Okay, so now let's go through the very popular one. So let's just say for all of this loops. Okay, so let's go through the very popular and most used, I guess, the for loop. C# also has a for each loop, but it's just like the for loop, but a whole lot fancier and much more concise. I'm going to explain how that works. Okay, so so let's quickly look at the for loop and the for each loop. Okay, because they're quite similar. So if I do, so this is how you declare a for loop, or this is how you start a for loop. So you type for. If you have IntelliSense, you can just hit this and then it's auto completes for you. But let me take us through this manually. So for, okay, now we have to set a starting point. Okay, so arrays, as I said, are arranged sequentially, okay, from the first to the last. And then each of these elements have indexes, which the very first one starts with 0. Okay, the very first index is 0. So we have to tell our for loop to start from the very first index, okay, which the index is an integer, okay, which we are going to call I, and then let that integer be equals to 0. Okay, meaning you know what, start with the very first index, and then from there check if the index is less than a particular size. Okay, in this case, the size we want to make sure that we check through is the size of the student's array. Okay, and to check the size of a student's array, use the keyword use this student.length. So the dot length of an array is the size of the array. So if I hover on this, you see get the total number of elements in all dimensions of the array. It returns the total number of, so you grab. Okay, so if we have 5, in our case we have 5 students, it will return 5. Okay, so students.length in this case is equals to 5. And then the final part, semicolon, is how we want to go through the list. Okay, how do we want to go through the list? We want to increment the index values. Okay, so all this does is starts from 0, okay, goes all the way to the length. So this index, this I, has to be, for it to stop, yeah, it has to be less than the number of students, because remember the index is the last index is going to be the length minus 1. So if this is 5, the last index we want to check is 4. If we check 5, it's not going to find it. Okay, so we have to make this student.length, it has to be less than, because if it's equals to, we're going to get an error, because the index cannot be equals to the last number, because the last number can't be 5, the last number will be 4. So since 4 is less than 5, this makes sense. And then how do we want to check 3? We want to, after every instance, after every student is checked, we want to increase the number and check again. So we're starting with 0. Okay, so 0, check, is it less than? Yes, move on to the next one. So add 0, that means next one is add plus 1. So this will be 1. Is it less than 5? Yes, check again, plus 2, and plus 1, which is equals to 2. And then to keep doing that until this is met. Okay, if the next one is, until this is broken or not met. So if the next one is 5, it should just stop the loop. Okay, meaning that loop has ended, the condition of the loop has been met, we cannot do anything further than this. Okay, so now since we have that, we can encapsulate this for loop with curly brackets, which are these, and then in between this space, so in between this space, you write out what you, or you code in what you want to do when you check through every student. So instead of me doing all of these console.writeLine, 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 I can just loop through all of the students, easy peasy, and have it do it once. Okay, so cancel this, so take that, get rid of all of that, and then just put it here. So, and then instead of putting 0, let's put I, because I now represents the index of our students. Okay, so the first student would have 0. When it increases, okay, it will have 1, and then this will change to 1, and then it will loop again. So it's called a loop, meaning it would, go through the first and then start again, go through the second, do it again, go through the third, and again and again and again and again until it has gone through all the conditions. In our case, the condition is when the index is less than the length of the array. Okay, so but if you want it to stop at some point, let's say you don't want it to loop through every single student, maybe you want it to stop when you found the students you are looking for. Like I said, let's look at this as an attendance sheet. Your teacher is calling through every student, and then probably the teacher wants to see if Ayo is around. Okay, so if as a teacher I have called through every student and then I eventually find out that, oh, Ayo is around, do I still need to call every student other than Ayo? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so you can just break. You can use this break. So immediately you found what you're looking for, instead of going through every other student, you can just break. Okay, immediately you break it, it stops the loop. So this means break the loop. Okay, break in a for loop, in a loop means, just stop it there, break the loop. Okay, stop the loop there. All right, so but we're not going to do that now. Let's just loop through the students. Okay, and let's cancel this first and then try a new one. All right, let's get a fresh new terminal, and then yeah, so we want to loop through all 5 students. You see, instead of doing what we did earlier where we're console.write, that took us like 5 lines, we've been able to accomplish all of this within just this short for loop. Okay, so now we have John, Tayo, we maintained this student 2 with that change to Edwina, Ayo, and Yetunde. Okay, so we've been able to successfully go through all the students. Now let's say we want to, okay, now in the case of searching for a particular student, now we can have, okay, let's do the same thing, okay, but instead let's do it in a while loop. Okay, let me do it in a for each loop and then do it in a while loop so that we can see how that works. Okay, so for each, so in the case of a for each loop, all right, all you just have to do is put in the variable type, give it a name, so students, okay, and then the collection, where do you want it to search these integers from? So the integers we want to go through is the arrays of students. Okay, so we have students. All right, so instead of saying, so what this does is it goes through every single student. Okay, so instead of doing this and then checking a particular condition, for each means for each integer student in the array of integers students. Oh, sorry, this is not a this is a string, not an integer. That's why it's giving an error there. So yeah, we have an array of strings, not integers. Okay, so for each string student, so we've named this particular string student in an array of strings. Okay, students. So note there's a difference. This, okay, which we have here, is this students, while this is a temporary variable that we're using to check for a value within the array. I hope you understand. Okay, so for each student in students, do this, and then you don't have to do this I again. All you just have to do is print this student. Okay, so what did I just do? I got every student. So let me just show you the difference between for and for each. So for the for loop, you give the loop a condition to run. All right, so there's a condition to run. You start from 0, increment, and end on this. So I can change this. If I want this to end at less than 2, I can just put that less than 2. When this index is less than 2, it will stop. So for the for loop, you have given it a condition. Okay, there's a condition for it to run. All right, but for the for each loop, it will do that for each component in the array, for each element in the array. If the array has 1,000 elements, it will go through every single element. Okay, except you now put a condition within that for each loop, which you can actually do, by the way. You can put a condition within, so you can just do something like if, which I'm coming to. So if students equals let's say Tofumi. If students equals Tofumi, print Tofumi's name. Okay, print Tofumi's name and then break. So you would have to create a condition within this in order to stop it from going through every student. But by default, a for each loop would go through every element that is contained within an array. All right, compared to a for loop that follows a condition, which is this condition. Okay, once it's out of bounds of that condition, it breaks out automatically. Okay, but a for each loop only breaks out when every single condition has been met. Every single array, every single class, every single element, yes, every single element of the array has been gone through. Okay, checking my notes. All right, so let's go to, let me return this to what we had before I explained conditions within loops, and then while. So a while loop is similar, okay, in the sense that you have to create something like a checker, okay, something that would be checking if your condition is true. Okay, so a while loop is just a condition, check if that condition is true, and then you have to set a condition, check if that condition is true, and then continue by yourself. So what you can do in this case is, let's set you know how in the for loop you set an integer within the for loop? It's not the case for a while loop. A while loop is just checking for a particular true statement. Is this true? Is this statement true? So let's replicate the for loop using a while loop. Okay, so this is what a while loop would look like. So I is less than student dot length. Okay, if that is that, then what's up? Unassigned. Okay, yeah, you have to make this assigned. Sorry. Yeah. So exactly like that. Okay, I can't use. We already have I. Let's use J in this case. J. Okay. Let's use J. Okay, so J equals to 0. So this, if you notice, yeah, this is outside the while loop. But for the for loop, everything is set within that loop. Okay, so a while loop works just the same as a for loop, but it's a conditional loop, or it's a much more conditional loop that checks if something is true. So if J is less than student.length in our case, then keep going through that loop. Okay, so now you can now do something. Let's say console dot write line, and then say student, and then J. So you are now the one at the end of the loop, okay, that would now set J plus plus. Okay, so that is how you use a while loop. So what you're saying is, while J is less than this, is less than students.length, do this. Okay, so for a for a while loop, you can use values that are outside. Okay, you can use values that are outside the loop, but for a for loop, you are more or less restricted to use this within that loop. Like if I just use my IntelliSense now to do this for, you can see this is the structure of a for loop. Okay, this is how a for loop works. Although you can change a few things, 5 or whatnot, okay, but it has to be within this for loop, compared to a while loop where you can have this value somewhere, anywhere, and then it will still pick it up, and then you can still use it. Okay, so yeah, that's the difference in their use cases. And then there are a few other things that as we move on in learning and stuff, I would be taking us through. So let's take this out first and then run our while loop. Okay, and there we go. We have the results. So it works the same. The thing is, all of these are loops, okay? They just have different ways in which you use it, which different use cases, okay? So depending on what you're trying to achieve with your loop, okay? Basically, what all loops do is go through a list of elements within an array, or they go through a list of all the elements in an array or a data structure. Okay, so that's what you use your loops for. Okay, I've not worked with do for a while now. All right, so yes, so a do while is kind of weird and tricky. Not necessarily tricky. It's just it's a while loop structured differently for some reason. In a way, I see no point to the do while. Okay, I see no point to it. A do while is just like do this while this is true. Okay, so it's more like saying this while loop that we have here, okay, structured differently. Okay, now look at this. So for this while loop to become a do while loop, all we just have to do is bring this here, and then everything we have within this while loop, in this while declaration, put it here. And then you have a do while loop. Oh, sorry, I took that out. Yeah, so I just wanted to, take this out first. So this is basically it. So the do is just do this while this is this. When we're already doing it here. Okay, I don't know a very good use case for do while, but this is what happens when you use a do while loop. Okay, if we run that, you see it give us the same results. It just does that. Okay, it does whatever you put in within its capsule, and then gives us that result. So it's more like your while loop with extra steps, I guess. Okay, so that is everything we've done for each while, do while. So the most used are for and while. Okay, so most programmers use for and while. But when it comes to Unity and gameplay programming, you would also be using for each instead of for when it gets to some points, because there are sometimes when you need to check through a particular class in your scene. Like let's say you're working on a multiplayer and you have about 100 players. Let's say, like, use Call of Duty for an example. Now you have 100 players within the game, and then you want to check through what player is leading. You can do a for loop or a for each loop and check every player within, when a player logs in and joins the game, the player is added to a database. The database is like an array, a larger array or a larger list of sequentially arranged data you grab. So you can check through all the players. You can say for each player in players, give me the player score, and then arrange. You can just use a sorting list, sort the players, and then give me all of them in order of in descending order. So the highest score will be first, and the lowest score will be last. So that's a use case for each. By the time you start working in Unity better, you would see how that works. All right, so that is a okay. So that's that for arrays and loops. All right. Okay, so let's do something simple quickly. Let's go back to our system, the system we created in the last class. Okay, let's bring it all the way down here, and we should be able to. So I want to make sure. So we have the for each while, do while, because I'm going to be sending us this code. So you can just go through arrays, go through loops, to understand better, just for you to have these. Go to switch statements, arrays. All right, so this is what we worked on in the last class. Okay, so let's just take this, cut it out, and bring it all the way down here. Okay, so this very interesting system we created. All right, so let's look at this again. This time, I guess we'll be able to understand more from what I took us through last time. So an array. So we have an array of registered players. Okay, registered players. So this doesn't have a specified length. Okay, so which means this, if you don't put a number here like 7, you see that's an error. If you don't put a number, it's just telling C# that okay, this array is open to an infinite number of data. Okay, infinite number of registered players. So if you want to keep adding players and adding players and adding players, you can go on and add as many players as you possibly want. So if I go on to add blah 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 blah, and then add another one blah 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 blah, and so I can keep adding and it would not disrupt the system. Okay, it won't disrupt the array. So we have an array of registered players, and we have another array of registered pins. Okay, we have an array of registered players and another array of registered pins. Okay, now let's take this out. Okay, and then cut this and explain what it is we are doing. So we have all of these. Yeah, we can, like I said, for the for loop, this is our starting integer. Note you can change this if you don't want to start from the first index, like index 0. You can change this to index 2. You want to start from Ali all the way down, you can start from index 2. Okay, but this is the one that's most used. So probably you want to start from the last person and go upwards. Like let's say you want to start from this and end here. You can do something like registered the length. Okay, that's the length minus 1. You know, we're looking at an infinite number, so if this increases, this will still be valid. You grab that, will still be valid. Okay, and then so this cannot be this again, so this has to be greater. If this is greater than 0, minus minus. So what I just did was invert the for loop. So instead of the for loop going this, like this way, sequentially, moving forward sequentially, now I'm moving backward sequentially. From the last, this minus, 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 all the way to 0. Okay, all the way to 0. So that is, so I think this can be greater than or equals to 0 because the very last one is 0. Okay, so if it's less than 0, if it goes to -1, it breaks automatically. Okay, so this is greater than or equals to 0. So 4 is greater than or equals to 0. 3 is greater than or equals to 0. 2 is greater than or equals to 0. 1 is greater than or equals to 0. 0 is equals to 0. And then that breaks off when it gets to -1. So that's how that is working. Okay, just to show that you can actually change things up, but you have to do all of that within the for loop as compared to the while loop, where you can have all of your variables, probably your public variable or your private variables. You can have them do all of that, but for your for loop, they have to be within the capsule or within the declaration or like the syntax of the for loop. So now let's do something. Okay, so for this for loop, let's do a simple check first. All right, so let's say if so now we have player. So if player name, okay, equals to, so we have a list, we have an array of all the registered players. So registered players, okay, dot I. Okay, So if this is a registered player, all I need you to do is console the right line and just say player. Okay, that's player is registered. That's all. Okay, if this player name is within this, okay, all I want you to do is tell me player is registered. Okay, so let's just clear this off. Should we? Let's do that for now. So player is registered. So if we go back, I'll just clear that. Okay, if we run that now, we would see this. Okay, the pin has not been assigned, so nothing happens. The reason why nothing happens is because the player's name is Yetunde and we did not set any else for this. Okay, so Yetunde is not registered, so nothing will happen. So let's just put this on hold for now. We'll come back to it. So let's have an else statement. Okay, and then let's do, okay, yeah, so console let's just take this, stressing myself. Okay, I'm going to show you something that would be really interesting using everything we've learned so far. Get rid of this. So player is registered if the player is there, player is not registered if it's not there. So let's run that again. So we're checking if the player is registered. So what it did was, this is a for loop. It was going through each of the players, each of the names. So it checked Michael, went again. It checked Michael and printed out this. Player is unregistered. It checked Veronica and printed out player is unregistered because player name does not equal to Veronica. Checked Ali, compared both. They're not the same, unregistered. And it kept doing that, until that is checked. And it's confirmed that, throughout the system, the player name Yetunde is not registered. But what if we checked we changed the player name to Tunde? Okay, change the player name to Tunde and let it check. Now you would see that it would go through all the list. It's go through all the player names. All right, Idris, what's your question?
Okay. I want to know if there is a way to do it instead of it having to print and to go through each name and check and say let's restart. Can it just go through it all at once and check if the name is in the array and just give us the appropriate output?
Well, the only way you can do that is if you already know the index of the player that has that name. Okay, another way you can just maybe simplify this is because it has to check through all of them for it to know. That's what a for loop is about. Okay, that's the purpose of a for loop. It's a loop. It's to start from the beginning all the way to the end. Okay, depending on the conditions you give it. Okay, so it's to keep checking. Okay, so but if you don't want it to be printing all of these things out, all you just have to do is don't have an else. Okay, so all you need is it should only tell you when the player is registered. Okay, that's all you need. It should only tell you when the player is registered. Okay, or yeah, it should only tell you when the player is registered, so you can just quickly check So if this is a registered player, do this. If it's not a registered player, because you can't go through all of these values at once. It won't do that. Okay, you want to check a particular name, you have to go through all of them. Like I said, as I explained earlier, your for loop works just like a teacher calling an attendance. The teacher has the list of all the students, and to know what student is present, the teacher has to go through every single student to know who is who. Okay, now notice this. A teacher calls Michael. Michael says present. The teacher checks Michael. Let's say player is. So check means player is present. Okay, and if the player is not present, that's where this else comes from. Then player is not present, using the analogy of the student, the attendance. Okay, so we check Michael. Is Michael present? Check. Is Veronica present? Check. Is Ali present? Check. So what they are doing is they are calling a name, the player's name. Okay, so is the player's name equals to any name on my list? Is if this is Michael, is Michael on the list? If Michael is on the list and Michael is present, check. Michael is present. Do you understand? So you have to go through all the elements, okay, within that array for it to work. If you don't want to be having all of these unregistered, you can just get rid of it, and it would only give you one response when the player is registered. Okay, when the player is registered, it's only give you one response. Or a good way to check, okay, a good way to check is do this. All right, you can do this if you want it to only give you one response instead of doing all these unregistered. You can have a condition. Let's set a boolean and say is registered. Okay, you add this variable is registered and say false first. Okay, you don't know if it's registered, so you just make it false by default. All right, so you can now say if this is true, registered would be true. Okay, else is registered would be false. Okay, or if it's false, this doesn't change, but let's just say it's that. Then you outside the for loop say if it's registered, then console.log. Console.writeline. No, I was doing JavaScript there. Console.writeline. So player is registered. If it's registered is true, is registered. And yes, for an if else statement, if you are only writing one line, you don't have to use the curly braces. If it only contains one line, you can just put the one line at the side here for an if statement. Okay, but if you are using more than one line, like let's say you have something else going on here, you can always use it. But just to be safe, always have your curly brackets there. Okay, so yeah, so if is registered is true, so this time we are not printing anything until we confirm that it has gone through, and then nothing changes. Okay, nothing changes. So if we confirm that it is true, let's just break it, because by the time it goes to another one, it should change. Let's say it gets true for one of them, like now to Michael. Okay, Michael will be true on the first one. By the time it loops again and goes to the second one, it will change this to false. So let's make it such that it will break the loop when we find out that it's registered. Okay, So let's change this to this, okay, and check for this and see how that works. Okay, so you have to find a way to structure your system, your code to work properly for you. Okay, so it would have to be finishing up soon. I have to explain methods before we leave. So yeah, as you can see, yeah, so player, what happened there? So let me run this again. So something went weird there. Okay, see, it only gives us one result. Player is registered. Okay, easy peasy. So if we change this to a player that is not registered, like Yetunde, okay, and run that, you see, this time it won't give us multiple. So you as the it broke. Why did it break? It says registered. Oh, sorry, I did not change. I didn't change this to unregistered, so it would print out the same thing. Okay, so that's my mistake. And then run again. So you have to be careful while you're copying and pasting so you don't forget stuff. So yeah, so this is what the correct thing is supposed to be. So because Yesterday is not registered, so it's kind of weird that I registered. So yeah, Yesterday is not registered, so that is what happens. So I guess we can keep that for now. So let's keep this for our system and then check the pin. So for each player, for this to work appropriately, for this to work, so it's registered and then another boolean with correct pin. Oh, so this is us just using all the necessary things. So if the player is registered, check two conditions. Okay, so we can check two conditions. Okay, and then we can see if the player is registered, is this the correct pin? If the player is not registered, we don't have to you don't have to check for that at all. Okay, so if the player is registered, you make another condition, see the pin. Yeah, so pin equals to registered pins to the I is the pin equals to registered pins. If that is true, then correct pin equals true. Else correct, let me just use that since that's the only thing we're doing. Okay, so let's just bring this here. All right, so if registered pin and correct pin, so this time we can now say else if if the pin is registered and it's correct pin, we can say player is registered and pin is correct, or correct pin imputed or something, I don't know. And then for this, we can check again if the pin is registered and the okay, so this, if you want to check if something is not equals to, I told you this is not equals to, you put the exclamation mark. So if this is not true, you can either do this or you can say pin equals to false. Or I'm used to shorthand when I'm coding, so you can just say not equals to this. When you put it like this, just like this, you're trying to say check if it's true. But when you put an exclamation mark right in front of it, check if it's false. So an exclamation mark is not true. Okay, so then print this. So player is registered, but player is registered incorrect pin. Incorrect pin. Okay, so but it's incorrect pin. So that is that. You can print that now. So basically what I'm showing you is how to use everything that I have talked about so far. We're using different variables array. So player is unregistered. Yeah. So Yetunde is not a registered user. So let's say let's say Ali. Okay. Let's use Ali this time. And then let's make Ali's pin the correct one. So 7878. Right now it's kind of boring because we're not doing this so much, but we will be able to do something in a bit now. So we'll run that code. So yeah, player is registered but incorrect pin. Incorrect pin, how come? Oh yeah, the pin I included was for Tunde, not Ali. Okay, so let's try that again. And then this is Ali's pin is 000. Okay, so save and run that. You can see it's working perfectly. Okay, so when we tried out a player that was not registered, it gave us the player is unregistered. Player is registered but incorrect pin. Now a player is registered and the pin is correct. So that is how to use arrays. Okay, how to use arrays, how to use booleans properly, how to use for loops, okay, how to use conditional statements to check through your code to make sure everything works very well. Okay, so this is a simple system that uses all of what we've learned so far. Okay, so let's sorry, excuse me. Let's look at, we've gone through this. Okay, so that's for arrays, loops, and everything. Okay, no, before we jump into that, let's look at something interesting. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so we want to take inputs. We want to take inputs from our console. Okay, so we can do console.write. So when we say console, when we do console.write, it allows us to impute a value. Okay, so player name can be console.write. What is this? Oh, sorry. I think this is readline. Sorry, something is not right for some weird reason. Let's say console.write. Supposed to write the text representation of a specific boolean. I think that's supposed to be it. Always trying to get us to actually impute values into the console before we take in, but it's misbehaving. Let me see first. Let's make sure console not readline. Okay, let me just make sure that we still have. Okay, so I think we will come back and finish that up when on the new group. So yeah, this is the new link. Okay. Okay, Idris, sorry, I did not. Your hands are still raised. Do you still have a question? I can't hear you. When we come back, because time is going. When we come back, this will be the final class, and then we can round up. Okay, so final class, final. No, I don't think I should be premium videos. Whew. Okay, just why is this not functioning properly? Okay, are we in? Not yet. Okay. All right. I think let me share my screen again. I will round up from here and just jump straight to um. Okay, yeah. It's giving me an error. So I'm going to just supposed to this is supposed to work. Or let's just parse. So sorry. Let's do dot parse and then cover this up with console uh, read line. Let's just see if this works. I don't know why it's giving. Um, okay, so you can type in the name. Oh wait, still. Let's do something. Let's do okay. So yeah, quickly let me just do something like this. Console. Let's see. Console the right line. So I can just do console the right line. It threw me off where it was giving all these errors, and then I can just say enter player name. Okay, and then console the right line, and then play enter 4-digit PIN. Okay, so this way we can try out this and try this out. Okay. What happened? Cancel that. Okay, so enter player name. So enter player name, let's use Precious. I don't think we've used Precious. Enter 4-digit PIN. Okay, 0977. Enter. So player is registered and PIN is correct. So if we run it again, okay, so this way we can now run and test. Enter player name. Okay, so player name, let's make player name Fisher. Okay, enter 4-digit PIN. 4-digit PIN 0000. Enter. Player is unregistered. We can go again. So this way we can always, you can use write line and read line to test that your code is working, you know, for something like this. Okay, so let's see, please, okay, enter player name, Derek, oh no, let's say Ali, enter pin, and then stupid pin. So player is registered but incorrect pin. So this is working properly now. Okay, working properly now. So let's look at methods quickly. I'll just show you what a method is, and then we can now, by the time start jumping into Unity, everything would work just fine. Can we hear me? I just got a prompt. Can we hear me? Emmanuel. Oh shoot. Wow, I have been on mute for a bit there. Sorry. Can we hear me? Can we hear me now? Okay. All right. That's cool. Sorry about that. Hopefully you were able to understand. So basically, you can use console.writeLine to give, you know, space for writing, and then console.readLine, sorry, console.readLine only takes in strings. Okay, console.readLine only takes in strings. So for an integer to work, you have to convert that integer and that string to an integer. Okay, and to do that, you just use integer 32.parse. Don't worry, these are things that you would learn eventually, but just follow this and then you should be able to do that. So the assessment for this week is this. So this is what you do. Okay, have a calculator. So what we're doing is we're going to create a calculator. All right, you're going to create a calculator, and these will be the conditions for your calculator. Okay, these will be the conditions for your calculator. Number one, your calculator should do basic arithmetics. Okay, your calculator should do basic arithmetics. I'm going to also create the calculator using all of these very simple methods that I have. All of these simple structures I've given you. You can see we've done addition, subtraction, multiplication, all of that. We've done basic operators, equals to, less than, minus, whatever, greater than. We've done all of that. We've gone through loops, we've gone through arrays, we've gone through all of those things. So your calculator should be able to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Okay, so that is that. So your you should be able to do that. Number two, your calculator should be able to check I guess this is this okay? Okay, yeah. Your calculator should be able to take in I don't want to do something really challenging. Well, let's do something challenging. Take in 4 numbers and add them using a for loop. Okay, so your calculator should be able to take in 4 numbers, add them using a for loop. Okay, so this is what you do. Take in 4 numbers, okay? Take in 4 numbers into an array, okay? Into an array and add them using a for loop, okay? Or okay, just see and yeah, add them using a for loop, and then do the same thing for, I'm going to send this to us later, for multiplication. And then finally, okay, compare the 4 numbers. Compare those same 4 numbers. Okay, what I will do is this. Okay, so create an array of 4 numbers. Then the first thing you do with those 4 numbers is add them using a for loop, and then multiplication, add them using a for and for each loop. That's 1. And then for your multiplication, use a while loop using those 4 numbers and compare the 4 numbers with 10. So compare the 4 numbers with 10, meaning so you check if is greater than, so is greater than, no, let's say from the very beginning. So is equal, is less than, is greater than, is less than or equal, is greater than or equal. So this is what you'd be doing for the assignments. So you have, so create a calculator that should do basic arithmetics between 2 numbers. Okay, basic arithmetic between two numbers. So between two numbers, okay, using console dot read line. Okay, using console dot read line. Okay, so you put two numbers. When you take the first one and the second one, it should add, subtract, multiply, and divide those numbers. You can do it however you want to do it. Okay, you can use um you can use a a simple method to check what function you want to do. If you want to add, check if the response is plus. If you want to subtract, check. Try like figure out a way to create a calculator. Okay, you know how calculators work. You know, you can do 1 plus 1, or just do number 1, number 2, then number 3, or whatever. So that I'll give you a sample. I'll give you a sample, okay, and then you should be able to figure out the rest from there. Now, let's quickly look at a method as we round up in 5-10 minutes, and from there we'll start with Unity tomorrow. Okay, let's look at a method. So yeah, a method in C# provides a way to encapsulate a set of instructions into a reusable block of code. They allow you to organize your code, improve code readability, and promote code reusability. Okay, they improve code readability and promote code reusability. Okay, so you can declare a method, okay, like this. This is a very good way to declare a method. So a method, there are two types of methods. Okay, methods return a value. Okay, methods return a value. There are methods that return a value, and there are methods that don't return a value. Okay, so methods that don't return a value can be used as a function. All right, so this is a method that doesn't return a value. So void means it's returning nothing. Okay, and then so let's say addition. So this is how you call a method. Okay, this is how you call a method. So this is a method, and within this method you can create you can do some, but you can have a for loop within the method. Okay, you can have an if statement within the method. You can have a bunch of things within your method. Okay, so everything within this method only works inside the method. It doesn't work outside the method. Like I said, a method is a way to encapsulate a set of instructions. So instead of doing all these like unnecessary stuff, you see everything is just going on and on. So if I wanted to do just addition, okay, I can just create a method called addition, okay, and it would only do addition. Okay, it's only do addition. But in C#, for this to work very well, for a normal, so this has to be a static. So this is a method identifier, okay, modifier. So static void. So static means it is, static is held in that position. All right, and then okay, yeah. So because the C# code is only going to be one of itself, so static means just one of that method. All right. But when you're doing game development, you're going to have multiple methods running at the same time. So you won't really be working with static methods in Unity. In Unity, you're going to be working more or less with public and private methods. Although public and private methods can still be used here, okay, but it's not really advisable to do all of that. You have to have some set of rules. So this is a method that returns nothing. Okay, usually you'd say at the end of a method you say return maybe an integer, maybe return something, return true if it's a boolean. But this is a method that doesn't return anything. It just gives back a result. okay, or just performs a task. So now so for a method that returns a result, so we can say an integer. So this method will return an integer. Let's say you want this to be multiplication. So methods are called using capital, start capital letter, using Pascal casing. So now you can see that it's giving me a red underline. It means it's declared, okay, it doesn't return. See, there's nothing is returning. This is an integer. We're supposed to return an integer. So you create a private integer within that method, and call it, let me say, results. Okay, and then return results. So we can set our results to 0. Okay, you have to set you cannot return null. Okay, so when this was a problem, you can see like it says, so use of unidentified local variable, so it does not recognize this because this is a null value. You have to assign a value to it, as I mentioned. So this results only works within this method, this multiplication method. Another really interesting thing about methods is methods can have parameters within them. What do I mean by parameters? Okay, the reason why I have to explain this is so that you'll be able to efficiently do your assignments. Okay, effectively do your assignments. So we have multiplication. So for multiplication to happen, you need 2 or more numbers. But in this case, we're only going to be using 2 numbers. Okay, so you can have an integer. So these are parameters within your method. So let's say this is number 1. So this is the first number. Another integer, which is number 2. Okay, so we can now take number 1 and number 2 and multiply them to each other to give us the results. So number 1, the symbol or the symbol for multiplication in C# is the asterisk key. So now the result we're going to get for multiplication would be number 1 multiplied by number 2. Okay, it even does the same thing for a a void method. You can still put a parameter. Okay, number 1 comma int number 2. Okay, and then just do number 1. No, so you have to have, like, probably you set a value before that. Okay, or you can just set a value inside it too. You can see integer results, but the thing about this is you don't have to return anything. You can just do integer results. Then I'll show you how to call both and how both work very, very well. Okay, so results equals to so number 1 multiplied by number 2. Okay, but in this case we're not returning anything. We're not returning any results back to the method. Okay, so now for C# to recognize these methods, okay, for C# to recognize these methods, we need to create a static encapsulating method. Okay, and that method in C# is called the main method. So say static, and it's a void. All right, and this is how it is. C# recognizes this method as a main method. Okay, it's declared but never used. Okay, all right, so this method. Okay, so now we can put this addition. Okay, we can put this addition, and then for this addition to work, let's do all of this. for now. Okay, so for this addition to work, we need to put this into the main body. Okay, for this addition to work, we will do this. Okay, so we need these numbers, number 1 and number 2. Note, if these were not here, since we already created parameters, we have to make use of those parameters. You can see it clears that out. But if we have parameters, it gives us an error, meaning we've not assigned any parameters. We declared parameters, but we didn't assign any parameters. So we have to put a parameter here. Yeah, if you read this, there is no argument given that corresponds with the required parameters number 1. Okay, in this, yeah, in addition. So addition needs an integer, it needs 2 integers. So we say 1 comma 2. All right, 1 comma 2. So let's do this. If addition is called, so since it's returning null, we can just do a function addition result. So this is now going to act as a function or an addition function. So you now put the results here. I'm still getting, okay. Let me see, something is up. Okay, let's see if that runs. Okay, the entry point is global, ignoring main entry point. Okay, I think I'm not declaring it properly. Main is declared but never used. Okay, I'm coming. Main is entry point but it's never used. Okay, quick fix, yeah. And I got rid of it instead. So coming, sorry. Okay, static class. Okay. I want to make sure that something is functional. And all of these work within this space. Okay. Okay, I think that was the issue. There was no class for program. Okay. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so methods only work within classes. Okay. So for the assignment, I'm going to give you a template just like this. Okay, so you just follow this. So this is how to, a class is not difficult. A class is just let me see, something that encapsulates an entire object within um it's like it's like a fundamental state for building a program. So it's like blocks that make up an object. Okay, a class is like blocks that make up an object. So you can declare, this is a way to declare a class. Okay, so the class has to be the same name with the name of your code, of your script. So if your script is program, the name of your class should be program. Okay, it works best that way to have them of the same name. Even though you can have another class, you can have like another class, but the main class has to be the name of the, so you can have another small class, maybe players. Okay, players, Okay, so you can have players within that same class, but the main class has to be the same class as this. So that is that. So yeah, this is how. So now this is how you work with void. Okay, void, you don't need any other thing. But when it comes to um, return types, you have to have like a. So we can say, so this everything within this static class has to be a static. So a static integer called that number. Yes, number results. Okay, and then so yeah, so now we can have number results. So for this is returning an integer, meaning this would give back an integer. So if this is an integer, you can call this function or this method like so, equals to multiplication. So this will be equals to multiplication, but now it takes in two values. Okay, you see it takes in two values. So if you multiply 5 by 2, you see that corrects itself. Okay, so because this returns a value, this returns an integer, you can assign this as an integer. Normally you would do something like 5 times 2. Okay, it still works, but now what if this was a much more complicated algorithm or like a formula that had like multiple other things, like blah 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 blah, like a whole algorithm to get just one result. So you would need to don't mind all that gibberish, I'm just trying to explain how that works. So you would need a method to include all of that. Sometimes it can include way more stuff here. You grab, so that way you can but when you I will send a sample of the calculator, and then you can work with that. Okay, and then get a result from there. So we did 5 comma 2. So our multiplication will be multiply 5 by 2. Okay, multiply 5 by 2 before by the end of get the result, and then console. Okay, let's just see console the right line. Okay, I can do it here. Just say console the right line number results. Okay, you can do that there, or you can just have like a number inside there, and then that number becomes this number, and then you can give the result of this number. You get, so anything that works well for you. Okay, and then if we hit play, we would get the addition value and multiplication value. So addition result is 2, and then 10. We did not put any prior, so we can just say multiplication result equals number, and then run that again. No, we didn't use this, so I just get rid of it. So yeah, addition results is 2, multiplication results is 10. So that is how you use functions. There are methods. Okay, this is how a class is structured, and these are the two types of methods. So method 2 is a return type. So this method 2 returns a value, returns a variable. This variable can either be a string or an integer, even a boolean, whatever you want it to be, it would do that for you. And even create an array. You can also create an array and then figure it out from there. Let me say int. You can so you can figure out. So it's just return something to you. Okay. So and then this method one is a void, meaning that is returns nothing. Okay, it returns nothing. All right. So that is everything. Note that when you are in a program when you're in a static class, okay, all your variables have to start with static integer and then number one. Okay, you have to do it like that, and then static string and then player name. You understand? Okay, so oh yeah, so it's a string, so a string has to have a quotation mark for some reason, so always make sure you do that to avoid errors. So but if I get rid of this, see, I start having errors because we're in a static class. Okay, so it start giving me errors. But if I take this out and then just make it a class, just returns that, and then we can use it okay like this. So okay, you can see that that works. But the moment we try to run the code, does it work? No, it doesn't work. It gives us errors because this is not Unity, and Unity already covers up all of that. This has to be a static class, so everything has to return to a static. So it has to be a static class, meaning we have only one instance of that class. Okay, we can only have one instance of that class when you're just doing basic coding. But in Unity, you can have multiple instances of a particular class. So so that's everything when it comes to the basics of programming. I have covered up most of these things. And by the time we jump into Unity, we'll be seeing more about classes, more about variables, integers, game objects, how you can calculate on runtime, do calculations, go through algorithms, how to practically use your for loops as you're working in your game environment, and work basically um, on the run. Let me put it like that. You run per frame. Okay, so you'll be calculating different results, different values per frame as you're working, getting inputs from the player and all of those kind of things. We're going to start working on them starting tomorrow. So tomorrow's class will be starting with an introduction to coding in Unity. So this is just coding in C Sharp. So we're going to start coding in Unity immediately after this. Okay, so let's just save class. I'm going to take this assignment X and put it somewhere here, and then so I will send over this script. Okay, I'll send over this script so that we can look through everything we have done so far. And then for those who want to look through everything, just be careful how you comment and uncomment things. They might, give you issues. But for now, this is every single thing as regards the introduction to programming in C Sharp. At the end of today, I would create a template for you to create your calculator. Create a calculator. So yeah, simple calculator. So there we go. Does anybody have any questions? I think everybody has gone. Mohammed Noble, are we good? I can't hear us for some weird reason. This is still connected. Can you type if you have a question and type out your question? I can't hear anyone. This is weird. Okay. Wow, I really can't hear us. Okay, I think I still okay, yes, I will make the video immediately after this class. I will make the video available. Okay, I will just compile and send over to um I'll send over to be up on YouTube. We'll get it available on YouTube. I think hopefully this evening. I will send it over now. Like immediately after this, I'll just send it over and we should have it on YouTube so that you can like go through everything, watch it a whole lot slow. I was trying to make sure we covered as much within 2 hours. We even went past 2 hours, which I apologize for. But as you noticed, you would see that there was like quite a bit to cover, and this is still scratching the surface because by the time you start going into Unity, it's going to be a whole lot more of using this and seeing how to make use of object-oriented programming that C Sharp does, structuring classes, using methods properly, like more than these examples I gave. So all of those things are the things we're going to be doing when we jump into Unity. So yeah, I will be making them as available as we finish up every class. I will just push and make sure that everybody has the video or yeah. So that rounds it up for me. So the assignment to be sent over along with the templates that you should use for the assignment. So just follow the templates and everything that has been taught during the week, and you should be on the right track to understanding C Sharp. So thank you guys so much for today, and yeah, do be good.